Any follow-up questions from the audience? Any questions or comments from the members? Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Rowley.
Thank you.
Now we will move on to, let's see here. We move on to page 4. Major Daniel Talazak, right. Bill 87-22, forensic DNA backlog reduction. Ooh.
Good afternoon, council members.
Good afternoon.
The supplemental appropriation that we're requesting is in the amount of $36,351. Has been made to the Baltimore County Police Department Forensics DNA Backlog Reduction Grant. An amount of $250,000 was originally approved in the FY23 budget for the Police Forensics DNA Backlog Reduction Grant. This additional $36,351 will bring the total grant award to $286,351. This request is for your approval to accept and appropriate those funds, adding additional funding as awarded by the U.S. Department of Justice and Office of Justice Programs. This program funding allows the DNA laboratory of the department to purchase laboratory equipment, supplies, contracts for outsourcing of casework, subscriptions, and continuing education and associated costs with that education on DNA cases.
Okay.
Mr.
Any
Chairman?
questions? Yes.
Yes. Can you tell me when it's anticipated that the backlog will be addressed?
Well, with the grant that we're having, this is a supplemental grant for FY22 CBER grant. With that, we are addressing the backlog of casework as well as the backlog of safe kits, which for some of those, we utilize some of the funding to outsource to others. But the increase in equipment, the training that occurs helps us to increase what we can do to get the samples that we are testing into the CODIS database, because that's really what the focus is to increase our ability to get that. So the grant itself is also utilized partly and a good portion for capacity enhancements, which then that helps us to process cases in different fashions that we can, internally as well as externally.
So from what you're saying, I assume then that by July of 2023 or 2024?
Well, I know this grant is good. This award is good through FY24. Our focus is to continue to upgrade our capacity, the additional training in there, and utilize the sources. We work closely between the lab and our investigative units to prioritize cases as they go with that. So cases like that, we always have samples coming in.
Gotcha.
And, we're utilizing that to continue to prioritize cases as we continue to focus on decreasing the number of samples we have to test.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I may, hi, Major, nice to see you. Can you give us an assessment of what the current backlog looks like right now?
Well, right now, in the backlog, the numbers that we do have from the latest. Hang on 1 second. So for right now, it's sitting in there now for casework for DNA, we have about 140 cases samples that are sitting in there for that. Safe kits, we have around 150. We do with the Safe Kits, we do utilize money that's afforded with this grant, and we put them out in usually 70, 75 cases at a time that we'll put out for outsourcing to do that. So we continue to work on the backlog. We do have one vacancy in our biology unit, one person in training, and we have 3 biologists that are working. So this grant as well helps with the training to bring the one in, and we're working on hiring another one to decrease the backlog. And what this does is increase the capacity for what we need to handle. And in regards to, the focus of the grant, in 2021, we had 58 CODIS hits. In 2022, we had 73 CODIS hits. So the work that we are doing to get those samples into CODIS, which is the goal to get profiles in there, we are seeing.
Sort of progressively chipping away at it.
We're progressively chipping away, and that fluctuates, as things go.
Okay. And SAFE is sexual assault forensics?
Kids, correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Major. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure. Are there any additional questions or comments? So just so that I'm clear, when we say that there's 140 cases,
They're samples.
samples, I'm sorry.
I believe there are samples that are in there that we look at, but samples flow in, and then we have to prioritize what samples we're going to work on based on. And all these aren't cases. They're samples that come in from the Safe Kits. They're samples that come in from crime scenes where they're unknowns, and we then process as we go.
Okay, so I guess I'm trying to get to trying to get a handle on the issue. So it's good to hear you say you prioritize the samples. If a crime occurred today and it resulted in some sexual assault and we had a kit and we took the samples, will they be tested today, tomorrow, next week?
No, they would be prioritized with case samples that we have. With the backlog that we do have, we would talk, each case gets assessed, and we determine, to try to prioritize these cases. So if the investigation has different leads that then push the prioritization of a certain sample up, then we look to push that sample up to do the investigation.
Up to what? Up to today? Up to tomorrow?
Right, up to assess, okay, are we going to send this out to a lab? Do we have the capacity to do it in our lab, or are we going to outsource it to another lab? So we would evaluate the priority of that with the investigation, and then determine at what point does that get bumped up. But with the grant, that allows us the flexibility to do that.
So I guess I'm gonna be frank right now. And so when I look at some of the expenditures that we place in the police department, some of the requests that came here, I'm trying to get a handle on how important are these samples to be tested, because we've passed a budget for all sorts of stuff. And to be quite frank, some of the stuff that I saw, I was wondering, like, how important are those things? But now we're looking at samples, and you're telling me some of these things are even from sexual assault kits, and I'm thinking to myself, like, why do we have this backlog? Are you saying that these samples are not that important?
No, they are important, sir, and we put an importance on all samples. We are working our way through to do that. But I mean, I'm not an expert on DNA, but there's processes to determine whether a sample can also be tested or have what DNA is there. But our staff works very hard to evaluate each case, each sample, and then we work with investigators to prioritize them being done. But no, they do not occur the day that that they come in.
Okay. Okay. Any additional questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman. One, I'm glad that the grant's available. I'm glad that you're all pursuing it, that we have it, and that you can start working on this backlog. The backlog's not a new issue, so I guess maybe you could help me understand what creates a backlog in the processing of these samples and rape kits.
Well, there's different things. Sometimes there's personnel. We do it, like I said, we're down to 3 biologists in our lab. So we do dedicate funding to outsource. The labs that we outsource can only take so many cases, and it takes time to do processing to get that back. So we work closely to try to prioritize cases. All cases are important to us, and the agency and the lab take everything as important, but we do have to prioritize, as we go through based on with the samples, with the DNA samples that we get.
Sure. And as you're prioritizing, and now you're getting extra funding to help get rid of the backlog, so you're going
Well,
to be able to.
right, what that funding is helping us to enhance our own internal capability, but also utilizing some of that funding to continue to send cases and samples out to be tested.
And as the funding, you said, goes through 2024, correct?
That's what this grant goes.
After the funding runs out, how long is it going to take for another backlog to happen?
I can't give you an answer on that, sir. I'm not sure.
Well, let's keep talking to make sure it doesn't happen again. So thank you.
Thank you.
What is the oldest sample that needs to be tested?
I don't have an answer to that, sir.
Last week? How many samples you collect in a week? We don't know. We don't know what crimes are going to occur, but I'm just curious. Like, I'm trying to get a handle on 140, 150,
Well,
290.
I don't have a specific number on it. It's not like we're seeing a ton of samples coming in all the time. It's based on the crime scene and things like that. So I don't know the specific number that we've received in the past year.
What would it cost to outsource all of these samples and have them tested within 3 weeks? I'm just curious. Do we know what that would cost?
I do not have an answer, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you very much, mate. Any additional questions? Yes, Councilman Toth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Major. Question, do we not have sufficient staff on our forensics team in the police department?
I think our staffing level right now is, obviously, we have 3 biologists, one in training. We do have 1 vacancy we're working on hiring. But it still comes to capacity and how you can process samples. I'm not a scientist. I don't know the entire process to process a DNA sample and how long it takes, like once you initiate it to when it progresses into a sample that can be entered into CODIS. But, I do know that our lab is working hard. We're always assessing our staffing levels in the lab itself, but in all areas of the department.
Are the scientists, are they civilian positions or sworn officers?
They're professional staff. So
Professional staff. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Major, will you get answers to the chairman's questions as far as the oldest sample and the councilman from District 2, his question about the cost of sending him out to a private contractor?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any additional questions, comments? Thank you very much, Major.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next, we'll move on to Major McGann. Page 11, everyone else. Vince Production Group. Major?
Good afternoon, Councilman, rest of the
Afternoon.
council. This is for an award in the amount of $160,138,000. It's been made to the Baltimore County Police Wellness Initiatives Program. The goal for the program is under the Maryland Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Act.
He went to page 7. That's fine.
I'm sorry.
Keep going. No, keep going. That's fine. We'll do page 7.
Okay.
Bill 8822. Go ahead. Keep going.
Continue? Okay. I'm sorry. So this will enhance our existing peer support and wellness team initiatives that offer training and services related to officer emotional and mental health, peer mentoring, suicide prevention, stress reduction, and support services for our officers and our families. The request is for the council's approval of an increase of the current appropriation in the amount of $60,138. An amount of $100,000 was originally approved in the FY23 budget for the Police Wellness Initiatives Program. This additional funding will bring the total grant award to $160,138,000.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the members?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
yeah, can you, Major, can you tell me how many officers avail themselves of the wellness program?
I can't because that is confidential nature.
No, I'm just mean numbers, that's all.
No.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yes,
Yeah,
we have a
I see.
licensed clinician now on staff.
Gotcha.
And obviously, when officers reach out to Mr. Caruso, he keeps track, but we don't go all that information all the time because, again, the confidential nature of those things.
Gotcha.
Now, we do have our peer support and wellness team. I do get weekly stats for the amount of contacts that they have with ranking members all the way down through officers, and I get a weekly report on that every week.
Yeah, I think these support services are very important. And I, speak with officers frequently if I see them. And, one of the things that really concerns me is that some of them are saying that if they had to sign up with the police force, they would not have signed up for Baltimore County. So I'm hoping that programs like this will help our officers to be more confident in our police department. And so I hope that, I'm sure it's doing.
No, it's a great service. Obviously, I've been doing this for 29 years, previously as a Baltimore City officer and now 25 years with the county. And we have changed. Law enforcement's changed, obviously, and having these folks ad hoc, a lot of them, a couple of them are ad hoc people, along with our wellness section, has done great things for us and helping our employees and their families, obviously, when they go through these crises are very important. So, yes, thank you.
When I think of police officers, I think of the split-second decisions that they have to make. And that's why programs like this are so important.
Yes,
Very important. Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments? That's for another day. Thank you, Major.
I do have one other thing, but I believe.
Yes, no, you're right. We'll go to the other thing now.
Oh.
Page 11.
I'm cutting the line.
Page 11. No, you're not cutting.
I'm not cutting the line. Okay. Just give me 1 second, sir.
Mintz Production Group.
Yes, if you are ready.
Yes.
Okay. So for this one, the scope of the services under the agreement is for Mintz Production Services to provide rental of audio and visual equipment set up for the 42nd Annual Hostage Negotiation Seminar that is being held this March 7th through the 9th in Hunt Valley at the Delta Hotel. The agreement was awarded through competitive bid to the lowest bidder. The term of the contract is for 1 year with 4 additional 1-year renewals. The total compensation may not exceed $175,000 for the entire term of the agreement, including all rentals.
So $175 for 1 year? Renewal up to 4 years?
Yeah, it's up to 4 years for that.
175 for 4 years?
Yes.
Okay. 50.
Well, it's 5 years. I'm sorry. It's one,
5.
it's first year plus 4 additional
Okay,
for a total of 175.
okay. Any questions or comments? Only reason I asked was because I know we are waiting for the equipment to add new audiovisual equipment here. And I know what our costs are, and we've been waiting for nobody's fault here, but due to equipment backlog, what have you, we've been waiting for a year. So I was just curious about it.
Yes,
But
sir.
anyway. All right. That's it for me, unless there's any other questions, comments? Nope. All right, we'll move on to page 14, Ms. DeAndrea Walker.
Thank you. Sorry for
Sure.
the early
Thank you.
confusion.
No, it's okay. You had the best order anyway. Ms. DeAndrea Walker, are we going to be dropping this acting director things soon enough?
So,
Okay.
been 2 years, just in case anybody was interested.
In 2 years, what?
I've been acting.
Oh, right. I was going to say, we're going to drop it sooner than that.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the council. The administration is requesting approval of a contract with Lorenzo Inc. to provide mowing services at the county's 3 closed landfills, the Hernwood, Parkton, and Texas closed landfills. This contract is for 1 year and can be renewed for additional 1-year periods with an option to extend the initial term or any renewal term an additional 180 days. The estimated compensation totals $243,000 for the entire 5-year, 6-month term. This contractor in particular will provide all labor, materials, equipment, and supervision for mooring services at the 3 closed landfills. The contractor will provide up to 6 mowings at each location during the mowing season, which is March 1st through November 30th. I will take any questions that you all may have.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Councilman Katz?
what's bench mowing?
What's bench mowing? It's mowing around the different areas at the closed landfill. We have certain areas in the landfill. I can give you the actual description. It's in my email.
Has nothing to do with benches, though.
No.
No, okay. I was like, what is this? Okay. You could get back, I appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
I do have one question, Ms. DeAndrea Walker.
Yes, sir.
This was placed out for bid for one company to do all 3, or did we separate it for solicitation from smaller companies?
This was a competitive procurement process, and we put it out based on a low bid, and we received 7 bids.
Right, but
And
I
there-
guess my question is, I guess what I was thinking was, I know the few contractors we have cutting grass for Baltimore County. And I was wondering if we had put this out for 3 different contracts, if we would have perhaps given somebody else an opportunity to participate. In other words, we had 7 people apply.
At the 3 different locations you're saying?
Right.
Okay, so that's a question I'd have to ask procurement specifically.
Okay.
How they decide these 3 locations versus 3 separate locations, because we had 7 entities to apply for.
Right. And that way, I guess to me, we would have 3 contracts. And you may have a contractor, a small business person that could do 1, but he probably doesn't have the capacity to do all 3.
Okay,
But when we do a contract for all three, we narrow it down to just the biggest of contractors, brass cut doors. But anyway, that's another day. I guess, any additional questions or comments? Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. And we'll see you soon again.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to page 18. Ms. Deb Schindel, Chief of Property Management. Guess who's going to have this contract? Press the button.
Thank you.
Sure.
Good evening, Councilman Chair and councilman members. I do have two contracts here this evening. The first one is the administration is requesting the approval of a contract with Lorenz Incorporated to provide maintenance for athletic fields, parks, and miscellaneous properties throughout Baltimore County. In the event that the total compensation related to this contract cannot exceed the $10,024,000 for the entire life of the contract. It is a one-year contract with 4 additional renewals. We did have an MBE goal of 30%. This incorporated 212 sites for this contract. It was competitively bid. It was based on value, experience, and lowest competition. And so it was determined that this vendor would get the contract.
And that vendor is?
Lorenz Contracting.
Okay.
And yes, sir, each line item for us, all 212 sites are actually divided up for each vendor to do a competitive bid on, and each one is compared, and that's how Lorenz got this. They would have been separated had they would been lower, or if anyone would have been lower.
And how many people applied for this contract? How many people bid on this contract?
I do believe it was, 6 vendors that total was in total. I would have to check on that, but there were numerous vendors.
Okay.
Oh, there were 2 bids on this one? I'm sorry, there were only 2 bids on this one. Thank you.
Okay, and any questions or comments from the members?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Ms. Schindel, can you get us a list of the sites that will be mowed every 7 to 10 days versus those that are mowed 4 times a year?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And I will also include an occasional mow. There are about 14 sites where we only do occasional mows, so I'll incorporate that for you.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, any additional questions, comments?
I have one question.
Sure.
Do we have, is the county mowing at all? Our personnel?
Yes, yes, sir. We have both in-site, we have on staff that mow county sites, and we also have outsourced county sites. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
It may be also helpful, sir, for you to know that we also have county staff doing playgrounds, athletic maintenance field, which is our natural turf, artificial turf, that we keep in-house because it's not cost-effective for us to outsource that, if that helps you.
Councilman Patoka?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Schindel, could you remind me again, I know you've shared this with me in the past, how we manage school ball fields I know that we do some and the school system does some.
Yeah, it is a little complicated. Don't feel bad about asking at any time. So on Board of Education sites, we, property management, maintain the ball diamond grooming for elementary schools only. Anything related to middle school grooming and high school grooming is done directly with the Baltimore County school system. We do not mow any Baltimore County public school sites.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
Maybe you know this. How many private contractors cut grass for Baltimore County Public Schools?
That, sir, I do not know. I don't know.
For the most part, is my experience, probably next to zero. They seem to be able to figure out how to have Baltimore County Public School employees cut their grass. I think. And I'm just curious to myself, like, when was the last time we did a cost analysis to decide that this is the best thing for Baltimore County to continue to sub out everything?
Well, so we do a cost analysis during budget season every year. Again, we will evaluate it this year during our budget season. We take those costs in consideration. I do want to remind you that although we outsource some of our mowing, we have done cost analysis in the past to do playgrounds, which is our inspections and maintenance on them. And it is not cost effective for us to outsource that or any of our artificial turf field or our natural turf field maintenance. So that's how we balance what we do so that we can continue to monitor, are we doing the right thing for the best value of the county?
Okay. Any additional questions, comments? Tony, I think, Ms. Shendo, this is not a policy decision I'm going to have, debate I'm going to have today with you because it's not fair to you. But the reality is the metrics that we use to determine what's the best cost to the county sometimes get confused because sometimes it's not exactly that raw dollar amount. It also goes into people, quality of life, you name it, so on and so forth. We don't want to race to the bottom and always be focused on whoever can give us the cheapest price. Meanwhile, these people end up, or some people may end up in line at social services because they're getting paid substandard wages and we're okay with it, but we're losing out on the other end. But that's not a debate. I mean, I don't want to get into all of that now, but I thank you so much for your time. You want to go into the other contract now?
I would love to. Thank you.
Yes, go right ahead.
The administration is requesting the approval of a contract for Lorenz, Inc. to provide baseball and softball diamond grooming services and miscellaneous ball diamond maintenance in various locations throughout Baltimore County. This, again, is a one-year contract with 4 additional renewals. It did have an MBE goal of 25%. It is competitively bid. It was procured with best qualified, best value, and experience. I do want to also express that not only is their staffing included in this, but their fuel costs and all of their equipment is required for this contract that they provide that. We service over 383 ball diamonds throughout Baltimore County. Some of them are groomed weekly and others are done monthly. And that's
And-
based on programming.
And how much for this one?
The estimate is $5,557,624 for the life of the contract.
So when you say 25% minority, you're saying that Lorenz is the minority?
Lorenz has to, with any contract here in Baltimore County, a sole prime contractor cannot be 100% of their own minority. They have to use another subcontractor to meet their minority goals. So it may not be, Lorenz is not cutting all the sites. They have to actually use minority contractors to help them supplement in order to accomplish their goals with this contract.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Lorenz is the prime, and the 25% goal will be made by subcontractors.
Okay. Why don't we just divide it up amongst ourselves and then give the 25% to somebody else? Why do we need them to do it?
With respect to our MBE, WBE program here in Baltimore County, we seek to identify um, minority participation on whatever contract that we can. Ideally, it would be great to have a prime who is a minority contractor. Then you wouldn't necessarily have to have subs. But in this instance, on the main contract for this one, and Ms. Shimdo, correct me if I'm wrong, but on the last contract, the reason why there was no goal on that contract because we didn't have a is the prime for Lorenz. I mean, is Lorenz the prime minority contractor?
No, actually, they still required a minority contractor because I believe even though a prime may be a minority, they still require a percentage. Did I answer your question correctly? Yeah, so they have to, that even if you are a minority contractor, you still have to have a subcontractor who is a minority so that you're spreading the opportunities to other minority companies.
But for every contract that comes before you, we ask that question. Was it vetted with our MBE, WBE program to determine if there is a percentage of some part of the service that could be delivered by an MBE or WBE provider?
Okay, so I guess to show you where I'm going, if a contractor was building this building and we said 25% go to MBE, WBE, then they may have a contractor putting in the carpet, they may have a minority pouring the foundation, they may have a minority doing a part of this. But in these instances, we have a contract with 383 separate locations. Why don't we just divide it up and take 25%, which would be 95 locations, and give that to the minority? That way the minority becomes the prime. The minority is taking care of the 25%. The minority is going to get paid what we pay them and not so much what Lorenz give them. I mean, you can do that with a separate location. It's hard to do if we're building the building and there's a general contractor and he can have somebody putting in the walls, somebody putting in the tiles, somebody putting in the flooring. I get that. But in this case, 383 different locations.
So even if we separated the contract and reduced the number of sites per contract,
Right.
and if a minority company then decided to bid on a lower amount of the sites, because I understand I think I understand, so just correct me if I'm wrong. So say we have a site with only 100, you think it would attract more minorities to be able to do that. In that instance, that minority still has to give it to another minority to meet the MBE goal, because they would still have an MBE goal. Does that make sense? Like we can't.
Nope, don't make sense. I understand what you're saying, but it certainly doesn't make sense. So the minority would get 25% of the 25%. He has to, I'm the minority. You have a set aside of 25%, 95 locations. I bid on those, I get those, but now I too have to find somebody to do 25%. That don't make sense. But I understand, that's what you just said.
According to our procurement laws at this time. Yes, sir.
But Mr. Chair, the thing that we want to emphasize that each and every contract, we encourage our smaller minority businesses, MBE, WBE businesses to bid on our contracts. That is a big push for us, given our disparity study of a couple years ago. So each contract, we look at opportunities, but we also want to encourage MBE and WBE contractors to be primes, exactly what you're saying. But in this instance, it sounds as though you're saying if we would take this contract, instead of doing one master contract, if you will, for all 300 and some locations and have either sub portions of that contract so that multiple contractors could do the work, the potential that a minority contractor would potentially be a sub. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yes, because right now, this is my knowledge of the situation. I'm ABC company, and you tell me I have to have 25%, no problem, because my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, wife, cousin will be the one that'll always get the 25%. And the other small companies never get in. They never get in. So as long as you give it to me and ask me to do it, fine, I will do it. And the result would always be the same. And in cases like these, what I'm saying is in some of these instances, we should give other small companies an opportunity to bid on things they can handle a smaller amount and let them be the prime working for us, getting paid the wages that we agree to pay or wages that they agree to submit in their bid. But that's a conversation. I don't want to hold everybody up. We got a lot of people here. We can have that conversation another day. I don't want to get into it right now. It was on my heart, so I said it. Any questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, do we follow state law as far as MBE, or is it our county law?
Each jurisdiction has its target.
Okay.
We are following the current county laws that govern our MBE, WBE program, but this is an area that we're doing a lot of work in with respect to outreach, opportunity, awareness. And on this particular, because I asked some of the same questions in our review of contracts, but in this particular instance, there were seven offerers that bid on this particular contract. But Chairman Jones, we definitely get your point, and we'll take under consideration on large contracts. The same thing you could see for other kinds of services that we have, concrete work, different kinds of things that we've looked at. But Councilmember Catch, for your awareness, we follow exactly the laws that are in place now.
For Baltimore County?
Yes, we do.
They're not dictated by the state, then?
I'm sorry, can you say that?
Are they dictated by the state? I really don't know.
Our percentages are different from the state.
It's different.
And we're given that right as a jurisdiction.
No, I guess what I'm referring to is what the chairman was talking about. If you have a minority contractor who gets the bid, and then that minority contractor has to hire 25% subcontractors who are minority, and to me, that doesn't make much sense. But let me ask you a question.
If we set a goal, our MBE, WBE office determines for each contract that we bring forward whether there is a goal. Some contracts don't have goals, some do, some are different. We look at this very same question each and every contract, but it does go through our MBE, WBE office. Ms. Carla Tucker, who is our MBE, WBE manager, looks at each and every procurement that goes through to see if a goal is set. The goals are not just 25%.
So if you, in this example, if you had a minority contract be the main contractor, that would count toward the 25%.
That would count toward our overall
Goal of 20.
that is that we're trying to seek as a county. But whether or not that contract would have to have a sub contractor goal is determined by MBE, WBE. It's not automatic.
Right, right. So in the chairman's example, where he has ABC company, whatever, and as subcontractors, he hires his wife, brother-in-law, I don't know who the other two were, but would they have to be subcontractors? I mean, they'd have to be licensed businesses?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If a contractor is going to have a subcontractor, they have to be a licensed business in order to meet the definition of a subcontractor, and for us to have it be a meet our standard of minority contractor that we're going to monitor. I mean, we have requirements to monitor various aspects of this program, whether they get paid timely, whether the amount and percentage that they say they're going to receive, they do receive. Absolutely, we have to monitor that.
So I think what the chairman was talking about really are paper subcontractors with wife, brother-in-law, I forget who else you said.
If that wife or brother-in-law is a certified small and minority business, that could be an example. But if they're not a small and minority business, no, they can't.
What if they are part owners of ABC?
They still have to be a subcontractor.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Just wanted to know.
I guess the only reason I brought it up, I mean, just today alone, right? You're asking us to approve $15 million worth of contracts for one company. And I'm just thinking to myself, there's a lot of companies out there, and you're telling me 7 of them are bidding on it. I guess it never goes into account that maybe we should spread the wealth a little bit,
I get you.
give other people opportunities. It's a conversation we'll have another day. Councilman Patel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one quick question, Ms. Rogers. Do we pre-qualify all of our contractors in terms of whether MBE, WBE?
We follow we use the state of Maryland's certification program and Baltimore City.
So it's a certification
state,
rather than a
right.
pre-qualification.
We, the county, do not do the certifications.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Deb, wait a minute. Wait, hold the phone.
Yes, Mr. Rogers,
Yes, sir.
with the chairman's suggestion of breaking these up, would that add to our expenses as a county?
Well, from a procurement standpoint, it would be multiple contracts, which surely have a percentage of workload impact, yes. And procurement is pretty challenged, but I agree with the chairman that we should look at opportunities to be able to provide opportunities for multiple contractors to do work for the county. If you look at our disparity study that is posted online, heretofore we've been challenged with small and minority contractors and their percentage of contracts awarded by the county. But I must say, if you look at our statistics, since that report was issued, we're doing a much better job. And one of the reasons why we're doing a much better job is before we bring contracts to you, we have an informed discussion on whether or not a goal was set, and are we outreaching to small minority vendor community to bid in consideration as being the prime, Mr. Chair. And that's a part that we still need to work on, making sure that people bid on projects where they are, or businesses bid on contracts where they are the prime, but it has to be within their capacity to do. And that's why I get your point.
Gotcha.
Now with the, and I apologize, I do not remember the name you gave for the person who, MBE?
Ms. Carla Tucker?
Okay, I'm sorry. But are we, if we do this, are we adding to her work?
Well, the contract part would be on procurement side, but the assessment part of whether or not a goal should be set, every contract goes through now to her, or every, when we're looking at RFPs, we're looking at encouraging small and minority vendors. It's the contract management part on the back end. If you award multiple contracts, you have to, and you're making sure that each of those contractors are providing the service and getting paid, and if they have subs, whether the subs get paid. But we have an automated tool that helps us with that, so that should be something we should be able to do.
I know one of the issues in the state for a while was that some of the minority contractors were paper corporations. And we're just paid just to, so they can be included as a minority contractor. Have we resolved that issue?
There are ways to absolutely check to see whether they're a valid entity, working with the state and working with the city, because they have to go through those certification processes. So we absolutely have ways to validate it. I mean, if there's a complaint about that, we do a full investigation in cooperation with the state and in cooperation with the city, depending on who they were certified by.
So if nobody from this minority subcontractor works, then we know it's a paper.
Well, they have to
Subcontract.
report, no, they have to report wages.
I
Minority
understand that.
Contractors, well, the prime and the more minority contractors, they have to report wages. And there's a back check in our automated system called PRISM, which is a nationally known, reputable reporting and compliance monitoring tool. They have to report wages, and the subcontractors have the right to, the ability to validate and say, yes, I did get paid, or no, I did not.
Good.
So there's a lot more sophisticated way of doing this than what was done, say, when the program started out. No, it's a lot more sophisticated than
No,
that.
I remember the paper corporations, subcontractors.
So we're working hard in this area. We still have a way to go, but it's a lot better than when we started.
Councilman, may I also offer some information? I can always speak on property management. We are also, when we get these contracts, we're not only told who the prime contractor is, but who the subs are, and we have inspectors, and our inspectors know who is on site. And so we go around and inspect each site that gets mowed, and we also verify that those contractors are, like, we're seeing them, if they're a minority, actually on the site doing the actual work. So we're double checking, trying to make sure that doing our due diligence, that not only the quality is there, but also that we report back any issues if there are concerns that we're seeing that their site was supposed to go a sub and we didn't see them.
Okay. All right, thank you. Needless to say, we're very happy with you, Deb Shindle, and everything you do. Thank you. And you, Ms. Rogers, as well. Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? None? Okay, thank you very much. We'll, all right, move this to the fast lane here. We'll move on to page 26. Faith Thomas from Real Estate Compliance. Ms. Thomas, how are you? Good, great.
Thank you. Is that better?
Yeah.
Great. The first contract that I am presenting is a request on behalf of the administration to approve the acquisition of 2 lots for open space assemblage on Hammond's Ferry Road. The purchase price, the agreed upon and negotiated purchase price is $9,500. The purpose of the acquisition is to be able to combine these lots with contiguous lots currently owned by Baltimore County.
Maryland.
Okay. Any questions, comments?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Council.
Do we know what the ultimate goal for why we're assembling these lots and what are the current lots that
Well,
abut this?
The current lots, one moment, and I will tell you. I believe that the current lots are vacant and the county has not definitively decided, but one of the proposals is for it to be used as open space.
It's my understanding this is DPWT space. Ms. Walker still here? Ms. Walker? They haven't. Right, there's a DPWT project. This was in Public Works and Transportation, is the space is needed.
It's in our notes, sorry.
Okay,
Dump
just keeping me
site.
on my toes.
Okay, good. Sorry.
Okay, you moving on to Windsor Mill Road now?
Yes.
Okay.
The next contract is for the proposed acquisition of 1,572 square feet as a highway widening area and 1,762 square feet, more or less, for a temporary easement for construction. This is the first of numerous acquisitions that will come before the council related to the capital project for Windsor Mill Road. There were three questions from the auditors, two of which I can answer. One is, please discuss the county's plans and process for acquiring the parcels needed for highway widening and easements needed for sidewalk construction. First, the real estate compliance has a group of contact negotiation agents. So they meet with the homeowners both in person, but first they send letters to them to make the introduction. Second, after meeting with the homeowners, we have a staff of appraisers who will determine what the fair market value should be for the respective properties. After that, when there's an agreement between the county and the homeowners, we prepare the documents and we execute the contracts and we prepare for execution the contracts and the deeds. So that is the first response to the first question. The second question says, the administration advised that pursuant to County Code Section 183107, the property occupants would be responsible for maintaining the sidewalk that the county will construct should the contract of sale document reference this responsibility. And we are happy to revise the contract with recommendations that would come from DPWT about the appropriate language for highway widening. And DPWT would also recommend who maintains the property after the transactions have
concluded.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments?
Thank you very much.
Councilman Marks?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And you may not be able to answer this, maybe Ms. Walker can. And I did mention to the chairman I was going to raise this. This is a very obviously worthy project. It's taken how many years to get this done? Like 8 years?
10.
We, well, I was going to,
Ten.
let me,
Stole your thunder.
no, let me just say one thing. I want to thank the county executive and the Madam, Ms. Rogers, for their diligence in moving this project forward. This project, was the very first item of concern for me when I was elected back in 2014. And, going throughout the years, the project has been, it was promised in 2014, but it has been in the slow lane. And to the credit of the county executive, Ms. Rogers, and this administration, it's been moved in the fast lane. So it's still a process, and I know the process, and we're working through the process, but at least we're moving forward versus skipping years. Now, go right ahead.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
As I'm going to say, it's a worthy project. It is an expensive project. It's $23.5 million for 2.3 miles. How is that rank in terms relative to the entire sidewalk budget for Baltimore County every year? Do we have any idea? Ms. Walker, do you have any, do you know that offhand?
Mm-hmm.
I know. It's planning, it's engineering, it's right-of-way acquisition, it's construction, a lot of things. But I'm just saying, we all have sidewalk needs in our districts, and it's a lot of money. Worthwhile, right? But
Well, I guarantee you, we probably won't have a road in Baltimore County probably as old as this one. And at the time, and since the time we've even gotten in this, we've had a couple of people get killed on this
Absolutely.
road. Going to work at, 5:30 in the morning and get hit by a car and never come home. So this has clearly been a high priority for many years. So that's why I applaud the administration for moving forward with it.
Mm-hmm.
I just,
And all that money is not spent 1 year.
well, I understand that. I'm just saying that we all have sidewalk needs and a lot of sidewalk gaps, older communities that were not linked together. And I'm just bringing that up. It's a great project. I'm not taking anything away from it. I'm just raising that question.
Yeah, I understand. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilmember Marks, I totally agree, and we try to look across the county. I think the administration does a good job of looking at equity and access across this county. I will say that this is a project that I know for over 10 years that the community, the Windsor Mill Road community and West Baltimore community has pleaded for. This runs from the bottom of Windsor Mill Road all the way to Rolling Road. And there are sections of that road where there is absolutely no walking space. But people have to come down the hill to go to the bus stop. There's a school that is in the midway. That's the first phase of this project. This Featherbed Lane, the children have to walk up and down this road. There's a 7-Eleven there. And as Chairman Jones said, there's been 2 fatalities on this road. And this was number one of the projects, but number one project then when the administration came on board that community leaders appealed to us to revisit because promises had been made about this road for many, many years. And I know myself, being a community leader, going back to when I worked at the state level, which was in 2007, between 2007 and 2011, the promises were made about this road. Now, it's going to take 10 to 15 years to finish this project, But nothing had been done on this road until this administration arrived. And we did the first level feasibility study and gradually adding money. One of the biggest costs to this project is utility relocation. There's astronomical fees for utility relocation, but the citizens in West Baltimore County along Windsor Mill Road have been asking this for over a decade, and the administration is moving forward to try to meet that need. We've placed ARPA money in this project. We'll look at infrastructure, we'll look at federal money, but we are trying to work to fund the sections of the project. Right now, we're focused on phase one, which runs from Woodlawn Drive up to Featherbed, where the school, the road that goes toward the school. But this is one of the number one needs for the community, West Baltimore community, that they've asked for.
Yeah, and again, I have voted for every capital budget. The county executive personally broke a stalemate and helped get a new $3 million roundabout in Perry Hall. So that had been delayed for 10 years. So I appreciate that. But this cost is 7 of those roundabouts. I'm just bringing it up. So
I totally understand, but I just needed to share for those who aren't familiar with this project, how far this project goes back, and unfortunately, the 2 lives that were lost on that road.
understand.
Yes, Ms. Walker? Okay.
I'll be voting for it. I mean, just raise it. Thank you.
How much of this is, Chair, can I?
Go right
Sorry,
ahead.
sorry. Is some of this land acquisition?
It is.
So
The por-
how much do we have to, like, do we know about what percentage of that we're paying to people that,
Ms. Thomas.
they
can talk-
want a sidewalk, but we have to pay for it? We have
Well,
to pay
it's
for the
not just
land to
that.
put the sidewalk there.
Yes, sir, because the road widening part, we need the easement to do the road widening part to add a sidewalk. There isn't enough space, and we're happy to brief you on the full project. We have the design work and everything that the original design work that was done for phase one. We had to break this project up into multiple pieces. But the issue at hand is it's not wide enough to do the storm drain project and then sidewalks. So we had to take small portions of property on each side of the road in order to do the full project. But Ms. Thomas can tell you what the estimated cost, average cost for the easements for the project. The biggest part is construction and the movement of those utility poles. That's the most expensive.
As it should be.
Right. But Ms. Thomas, can you provide the council members with what the contract amount is for the one easement?
It is $7,666, but that includes.
Per
that's the
property?
That's the
Per property.
acquisition, that's the acquisition plus the temporary easement.
And this was the only way we could do this. There's a school there, you're saying, but we couldn't force upon people to put a sidewalk where there's a school.
The school is down a road. It is a access road. We've
Feather.
applied for federal funding for this, safe walk to school money. We've looked at all kinds of money to try to side this. But yes, when you look at the easement on both sides of the street for this, on the existing street, it is indeed the apportionment that we need to do the project that not only includes sidewalks, it includes storm drains and the gutter work that has not been done. This is one of the older communities in the county, and this work has not been done in decades.
Well, the other part is, And a lot of times in a lot of communities, we have easements already because people throughout the years and property turnover, they've sort of given the rights to the county. In this case, these are very, very old homes, and the county doesn't have an easement. So if you want that 10 feet or 20 feet of somebody's front yard, we have to pay for it.
By law, we have to negotiate with the property owners.
And what if I'm a holdout and I say I want 45,000 for mine? What do we do then?
We have mechanisms.
There's a
to take it,
negotiation,
try not to
yeah,
do it.
there are negotiations that we can use.
But do we know what percentage the 23 million is for the property acquisition? Do we know what that?
Well,
Approximately.
the allocation that we put in for projection was for phase one is $1 million.
That's all, okay.
That's all. And if you look at the amount of properties that are there are 65 properties in phase one that we're working with. And the estimated cost for that was $1 million.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Yes, Councilman Ketch?
Go.
Yeah.
Sure. I know that if you have a sidewalk in front of your home and it's damaged or needs to be replaced, the homeowner is responsible.
Yes, sir. This reverts to them once it's done.
So in many developments, it's the builder, developer who puts the sidewalks in. And so are the residents, do they get a bill for the new sidewalks that are put in?
Not in this aspect, but they take ownership.
Right.
This is a temporary easement. They take ownership. And if anything going forward, like snow removal, if the sidewalk needs repaired in the future, just like in our communities, the sidewalks, if something happens to the sidewalks in front of your home, you're responsible for that. That would be the same thing once the sidewalks are built.
So if, okay, there are no sidewalks on the street where I live. If the county were to then, I'm not asking for a sidewalk, but if the county were to build sidewalks in front of my home, let's say, we would not get a bill for that. A new sidewalk.
If there was a project in a community, and I'll defer to Ms. Walker on this, it was a part of a full project like this, a road widening, and there was no sidewalk there, and then sidewalks were put in as a part of the project, no.
So
But
there-
if we had to use your land,
Yeah.
we would have to go through the temporary easement piece, because by law, we have to do that.
So in some cases, if a sidewalk is installed in front of a home, that homeowner will get a bill. In other cases, they won't get a bill. Is that what you're
can't-
saying?
I can't say that, what you
Okay.
just said. I can't confirm that. But in projects like this, like
Right.
we have other sidewalk projects in the county,
Right.
but they're not necessarily running right in front of a residential, a house. Other sidewalks we're putting in because the community is asking for sidewalks, or it's a safe walk to school kind of situation. Then, of course, nobody is going to be billed for that sidewalk. But if the sidewalk is in a residential community and we're doing something, we're putting in a gutter and we have to then build a sidewalk. We use an example this afternoon talking to Chairman Jones in our community when they did the resurfacing of where the water runs into the gutter. They had to redo all of the lips to our driveways up to the point where it meets your driveway. No, we were not charged for that.
Charge for that. Okay. explaining that to people sometimes.
It is,
It
because it
gets
depends on what kind of project it is and where the county easement. Now, the block of cement right next to that lip that incurs damage, yes, we have to
Then
pay
the
for it.
property
I'm a resident, I'm a property owner, that's my responsibility, and I know that because I had to do that. They had completed the lip, but there were two pads of cement that were damaged from rainwater runoff. I had to pay for that
Right.
myself, and
And,
it's expensive.
or you could have had it done by a private contractor.
I did.
Oh, okay. Or you could have had the county do it.
Yeah, and then
And they
add
w-
it to
they
my
would have
tax
charged
bill.
you. Right. Right.
But I preferred not to add something to my tax bill. I'd rather pay it than add a long-term debt to my tax bill. But that was an option I could have done.
Okay. Thank you.
So I do have another question.
Yes,
This is
sir.
like, I just can't help myself. I just have to say it. If the county owns an alley, are we responsible to repair the alley if we deem it needs to be repaired? We own the alley. Who said no, we don't? You say we don't own the alley?
It's been our understanding in dealing with alleys in our district
I'm
that
not talking about alley in your district. The question was, if we own an alley, Baltimore County government,
alleys, I would venture to say, and I could be corrected by some of the experts in the room, that most alleys, especially in residential
not talking
communities,
about most alleys.
are privately owned.
I'm
You
not talking
own-
about most alleys.
You own out into the middle line of that alley.
Ms. Rogers?
I would say what guides us as public administrators is land records. You look at a land record and you determine, and our regulations here in Baltimore County that directs us to consult the land records. And if a land record indicates that it is a public alley, and land records do that, and deeds tell you, you consult and confer with the land records. That will guide you. Our alley repaving program that has been in place for quite some time clearly states that there are over 1,000 alleys in Baltimore County. And if they are in disrepair, it does not state in that legislation, whether it's residential or commercial, it says alleys that are in disrepair, then the alley can be assessed and determined. The authority to determine whether an alley should be repaired by the county or not falls with the director of the Department of Public Works and now Public Works and Transportation. The legislation doesn't say that. And that's the decision-making guidance, whether or not an alley should be repaired or not. The other critical thing, and I'll just say this, if an alley is public or not, if citizens or pedestrians traverse the alley for any reason, or cars access the alley, use this alley to go through freely, or whatever reason, or go into other entities like a garage, then that also is an indication of whether it's a public alley. And the bigger issue is whether there are any types of issues that would make this a public health issue. For example, if there were issues where water was running into a utility box, where an electrical issue may occur when a pedestrian was walking through, or even a car. Looking at things like that is what determines whether or not, Mr. Chairman and council members, whether we, Baltimore County, should consider repairing an alley.
Right. And thank you for that very, very long explanation. I just wanted to say, if we own the alley, can we repair the alley?
Well, we definitely have regulations that direct us to land records.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Councilman Patel.
So on the Windsor Mill
Yes, sir.
project, Mr. Chair, I share your excitement. I appreciate your leadership on this and your persistence. If you've been waiting since 2014, that's 8 years ago when this was initiated, and I think I appreciate the work you've done on this. I'm looking at my Maryland map or Baltimore County mapping tool, and the area is surrounded by DR 16, DR 55. It's inside the Beltway. It's where we want growth to occur. And so we need to provide public services that serve these high density areas, these older Beltway, inner Beltway communities. It's along Windsor Mill Road. It's other areas. I think in all of our districts that have inner Beltway communities, and that there's going to be a cost to create that walkability and to create sidewalks. And because they're already built out, you do need to move the utilities, and there's a cost to that. And these are basics of what we need to do. And I would say that this council and the administration, I appreciate the administration biting the bullet on this one, because it's a difficult one, but we do need to take a deep dive into strengthening our older inner Beltway communities. And it's a difficult task, but it's one I think that we're all up for achieving. So I appreciate the work you've done, Chairman Jones, on this. And I think we should all be prepared that this is the beginning. If we want walkable communities where people live, this is what we're going to have to do.
Now, to be fully transparent, if everything's going perfect, you're looking at about 5 to 6 years. If everything went perfect, like 1 year for engineering, 1 year for maybe acquisition. Acquisition, you get into moving utilities. The last thing you're going to see is some contractor out there paving the road. But there's a lot of things that happen. So if everything was perfect, you're looking at 5 or 6 years. So we are behind what we consider perfect, because there are years we didn't do anything.
Per phase.
Right.
You're talking about 5 or 6 years per phase.
Right. Absolutely.
So it's going
Absolutely.
to be a long time before the entire project will be completed. Will definitely outlive my tenure. But what I would say is it's a long-term investment. And Councilmember Patoka, I couldn't agree with you more. If we don't invest in existing communities, if we don't invest in long-term infrastructure, those communities are going to die. Because as citizens age and are not able to afford, to stay in their homes because, and they don't have walkability, then that's how communities die. Because individuals move from those communities to other kinds of communities, and then other people, won't purchase those homes. Unfortunately, in my lifetime, I've seen communities die coming from Western Pennsylvania. And that's not what we want for Baltimore County.
And I think that we've already invested in these areas, because this is where our public infrastructure is. And so there comes a point in time when you need to reinvest where you've made your initial investment on where we want high density, where we want sewer, where we want public water and other, and along with that comes sidewalks. And it's a basic public safety function as well as a quality of life function. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure. Okay. Okay, Ms. Thomas, I think we're done. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Councilman Marks, page 10.
Okay.
Bill 8922, composting.
Composting, yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon. This legislation establishes metrics by which an organic composting facility may be established in the Middle River area. As many of you know, Baltimore County is under a state mandate to process more organic materials. Last year, a developer proposed such a facility in a residential area of Perry Hall. That's why I want to make sure that any facility is located in an exclusively industrial area with performance standards that shield such operations from the community. The use under this legislation would only be permitted if the underlying manufacturing zone has the IM district overlay, and if it is 300 feet away from dwellings at a distance from sensitive environmental features such as waterways. We've discussed the bill with the Department of Public Works, with the administration, and understand that conceptually they have no issues with it. We will be putting an amendment that does allow this type of facility to be at the Eastern Sanitary Landfill. I don't object to that. What I do object to is this type of facility going into a residentially zoned area. That's all.
Okay. Any questions or comments from anyone? No, we will move on to page 31. Mr. Secretary, you want to read some non-competitive awards?
Mr. Chairman, that will actually be for the legislative session next Tuesday. My apologies for including it in this
Okay,
agenda.
no problem. So now I guess we'll move on to the appointments. And we certainly appreciate everybody's patience and
We do have a
indulging us.
resolution. I'm sorry to interrupt. We do have a resolution from Mr. Marks.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Marks.
Thank you very much.
Resolution 1-23,
Good afternoon.
page
This-
29.
Thank you. This resolution requests that the Baltimore County Public School System begin the review of the suitability of land for a new school site in the Middle River area, as outlined in Resolution 3922 passed by the County Council last October. At that time, the council advanced a plan unit development for the Lafarge site on Earls Road. The resolution identified a community benefit package that includes acreage that could be used for a vocational school. Unfortunately, despite numerous requests, the school system finalized a review of high school needs in the Northeast that never looked at the Lafarge site. The school board is now moving quickly to fund high school projects without ever examining the Lafarge property as expressly requested by the county council. At the same time, the Lafarge plan unit development is moving briskly along. Developers have in fact filed a concept plan with the county. Mr. Chairman, we are the funding authority for the school system. It is imperative that we work as partners. Sometimes, though, we need to take a stand, such as when this council correctly intervened to seek to improve school bus transportation. We will be asked to spend tens of millions of dollars on high school needs. It is fair that we know the complete picture about what land is available for these high schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from any of the members? None. Thank you, Councilman Marks. Certainly agree.
Thank you. Are there any witnesses?
There are no speakers, Mr. Marks. There are no speakers on any items today.
Okay. Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
My understanding is that Renee Papavasilio was going to testify on behalf of the Perry Home Improvement Association, and my understanding is that that organization supports this resolution. Thank you.
Okay, is she online by any chance, Chris? It's all right. We'll get you a plug.
Earlier today,
Let's get
and
some
I'm
plugs on
sorry.
that table.
earlier today, Mr., how do you say that, Councilman Marks, his last name?
It's a woman,
Yes.
Renee
He emailed me.
Papavasilio.
My apologies, emailed me about registering to speak, and I emailed her back, giving her directions how to do that. She did not. I also just reached out to her at the beginning of the meeting in the chat about registering, and she has not replied. However, she is on the meeting. So I've tried reaching out a few times, even during the meeting. I can certainly unmute her
Yeah.
if you prefer.
Yeah.
Put her on.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Councilman Marks, I have a question.
She is now on as a panelist.
Sorry.
Hello.
Let me go first.
Sure, you can hear from her first, sure.
I want to apologize. I did not check my email. I was only checking my work email because I am actually going away on Thursday. So I have a lot of work to get done, and we actually have family in from Greece. So I have been extremely busy today and not checking my personal email. So I do apologize. I just want to state that the Perry Hall Improvement Association is in agreement with Councilman Marks. We would like for Baltimore County Public Schools to look at, to definitely consider the Lafarge site as a potential site for a new high school. We do not believe that building a supersized school at the current Loch Raven site is a great idea. And we really hope that you support Councilman Marks tonight on his resolution.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
And thank you for letting me speak. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
No,
Renee.
we really appreciate your participation and welcome you whenever you like, and every
Thank
other
you.
citizen that's listening. Sure,
Thank you.
sure. Councilman Katz?
Yes, Councilman Marks, do you know if a vocational school is built and you have students attending a regular high school for half the day and then going to the vocational school the second half of the day, or, whatever way it is, how that interacts with the population, school population in the area?
I don't, Councilman. I think there have been some thoughts about having this be half vocational, perhaps half neighborhood school.
Okay.
The resolution is vague, I think. I do want to thank Councilwoman Bevins, who worked very hard on this issue. I don't know the answer to that. I also don't know, quite frankly, if this land is feasible. We got the environmental reports required by the resolution about 2 weeks ago. We're still digesting that. It may turn out that the site is not feasible for a high school. I just think that there's no harm in having the school system do this type of survey that includes Lafarge property.
Yeah, and in answer to the person who called in, I think that the school system and the council needs to take a close look at this recommendation for Loch Raven High School. It's a situation where if you renovate a building built in the 1970s, it's going to cost a lot of money. And then you're going to end up with something that isn't going to last as long. I just was stunned when I saw the study for Delaney and Towson that the renovation costs were almost as much as replacing the building. Now, I know that Towson is getting larger and larger, and I don't know what the capacity is for the proposed school. I think were you there? I don't know what it is. No, for Towson. Yes.
Towson High is at 1,100 and they're currently at 1,600 students.
No, I mean the new proposed.
That's what it'll house, somewhere north of 1,600.
1,700. But
Because I know that Loch Raven is underutilized.
Right.
And, I know that I'm asking for things that'll cause me a lot of controversy, but I think that there needs to be redistricting considered for that area, and which is always difficult, difficult.
I think all our high schools are at capacity or over. So there's not a lot of room to move kids around. It's not those kind of situations.
I think that our school system needs to take a close look at the studies, the national studies that show the size of the most effective high schools. There's ones that are too small and ones that are too large. And we need to settle on a population in these schools that's going to give our kids the best opportunity to learn. And, I think it's a shame that there's about the cooperation between the school system and the county, or lack of, because we need to be part of these decisions regarding all these schools. And as far as costs go, you're sitting down, right? The costs are escalating out of sight.
Oh, yeah.
For these new schools. In fact, for Delaney, the original cost was like 140 for a new school. It's now $173 million. That's because of the price of supplies, labor, et cetera. So we have quite a challenge in front of us. And we really need a school system that's going to work with us on determining where to go as far as new schools, renovations, and et cetera. So, it's not an easy issue.
Right.
And the other thing is, the school system hasn't always been very accurate with their population projections as well. So, we need, we need to have a cooperative relationship between the council, the county executive, and the school system.
Well, and I think it's appropriate putting this in a resolution since we're basically responding to a resolution we've already passed. I do want to say there are members of the school board who I think are trying to be very helpful from the districts in that area. I thank them for their help. But it's frustrating. I remember specifically asking the superintendent about this issue of supersized warehousing of students and raising this concern. It's frustrating that we have to work so hard at this. That's all.
Okay, I guess before we move on, I'll put a plug in for the county executive who, of course, came up with the multi-year improvement plan for the schools, which was a great plan because it looked at all of our needs throughout the system and decided for a path forward. So I'll put the plug in for that. And now we will move on to the appointments. And I certainly thank you so much for your time and attention and your diligence in dealing with us. And I guess I will start with my first.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Sorry.
But unfortunately, I need to return to the 7th District.
Okay.
So I'm going to just let the appointees know that I will be voting for you on Tuesday. And I will save my praise and criticism and questions. Why are you laughing so much, David Likens?
I think it was the criticism part.
So, but unfortunately, I do have to leave you. But congratulations to all of you for your appointments and reappointments. And we can hopefully talk more on Tuesday in the legislative session, if that's okay.
Thank you, Councilman Crandall.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Godspeed.
Thank you,
Be
everyone.
safe.
You got it.
Okay, well, why don't we start off in the virtual world with Ms. Julie, how do you say that? SOS? SOS?
That's correct.
I believe so.
Sauce.
Okay,
And this is for the design review panel for reappointment. sir.
okay. Ms. Sauce, we certainly appreciate your willingness to serve. We appreciate what you do for the county. We're going to be voting for you Monday. And would you like to say a few words about your service?
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity. I've been serving virtually on the board since the pandemic started, and I love to contribute to my community, Baltimore County, It's been quite an experience being virtual the whole time, and hopefully in the future I can meet face to face with some of the panel. But I appreciate the opportunity to make Baltimore County a great place to live and thrive.
All right. We thank you very much. Any questions by any of the members?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Ms. Sauce, I'm looking at your resume, or as Councilman Catch would say, your curriculum vitae. And it's really, really impressive. But the coolest thing on here is Baltimore Ravens drumline for 16 years. That sounds exciting.
It was one of the best experiences and times of my life, and unfortunately I had to give it up when my daughter was born, but I always hope to go back, and I know John Zeman would love to have me back. So hopefully when she's a little bit older, I can rejoin the drumline.
Sounds good. I see that you were the percussion section leader, so that's really awesome. So I look forward to voting in support of you. Thank you for moving forward on this, and really am impressed by what I see in front of me. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Sauce. We will move on to, who do we have here next? Oh, my God. The world famous Dr. Gregory Branch.
Landscape architect.
The best officer here on earth, the best health officer here on earth and Mars. Mars. You too. Dr. Branch?
Yes. Well, good afternoon, Chairman Jones and the distinguished council members. I can just say Happy New Year. I count it an honor and a privilege to be here today. Just please allow me to introduce myself a little bit. I'm Dr. Gregory Branch. I'm a nationally recognized certified physician executive, an internationally distinguished fellow of the American College of Physicians, a faculty member at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine and School of Public Health, and an adjunct professor in the Department of Epidemiology and Public Health at the University of Maryland, Baltimore School of Medicine. However, what I'm really most proud of is the work I do here for Baltimore County as the director of the Department of Health, health officer, the director of social services, and the director of health and human services. Our vision is healthy people living, working, and playing in Baltimore County. In his role as Director of Health and Human Services, I'm able to make a positive difference in the lives of the people and pets in our county. And that includes, but not limited to, ensuring that restaurants and swimming pools and recreational waterways meet standards for safety and cleanliness, providing early interventions to infants born addicted, and assisting their mothers to move beyond their drug misuse, making it easier for low-income families to afford nutritional foods, and assisting them with basic household needs through our supplemental nutritional assistance program, our temporary cash assistance, medical assistance, and our women, infants, and children programs. Providing the services for animals throughout the county's only open admission animal shelter, and meeting individuals where they are, and providing supports to reduce harm resulting from drug misuse, and providing accessible free immunizations from infectious and emerging diseases. For more than 16 years, since the Jim Smith administration, I've had the opportunity to serve the more than 800,000 residents and their pets of Baltimore County. And throughout my tenure, I've worked shoulder to shoulder with local, state, and federal partners, as well as community, faith-based, and business partners to accomplish positive outcomes. Some of these accomplishments is our fight against opioids, and that included our expansion of services to substance-exposed newborns and their families, our enhanced harm reduction in mental health services, and our collaboration with Gardenzia to open a residential treatment center. Our Animal Services Unit has continued to successfully reunite lost pets with their owners. and provide awesome trap, neuter, release services and perform successful animal medical services. And then in addition, we are second to none in our COVID-related services. And since the very beginning of the pandemic, we continue to provide testing, vaccine clinics, distribution of safety kits, response to inquiries via our helpline, and utilizing our VOICE, that's VOICE, Vaccine Outreach Initiative for Community Equity, to ensure that the vaccine and testing are available to all people, including people of color. These COVID efforts have garnered us local and national recognition, including my being named the 2021 Marylander of the Year by the Baltimore Magazine, honored as an immunization champion by the National Association of Immunization Managers, and I received the Johns Hopkins Indispensable Role of Blacks Award in 2022. So with the commitment of our dedicated workforce, we will continue to produce positive outcomes for our residents. I thank you for your confidence, for your support, and for collaborating with us to make Baltimore County a great place to live, work, and play. And I look forward to your favorable response to my reappointment as Health Officer, Director of Social Services, and Director of Health and Human Services. May your 2023 be happy, healthy, and safe.
Well, are there any questions or comments from the members?
I have a question, Chair.
That did require, that was probably a response, an applause line. We probably should have applauded. Go right ahead, Councilman Ertel.
Dr. Branch, thanks for coming today. Can you speak to one of the things I recently found out was Baltimore County is the only, I don't know if it's the only county in Maryland, but at least it's the only large county that has, generally most counties have a health officer as yourself, but then they have a separate Department of Social Services director or executive director along those lines. And can you speak to that at all? It seems to me that in Baltimore County, we have more poverty than we've ever had. I've been a councilman now for about a month. I spend 60% of my time on social services calls of people that are frustrated, can't get through, desperate. And I'm just wondering if we need to do better than what we're doing right now. Like, is it too much?
Okay. So I can speak to you about that, and I can kind of talk about it from two different perspectives. The perspective of our constituents and the perspective of the departments themselves. First, our constituents. We decided to do this because we recognize that in health and in social services, we were serving a very similar population, basically the same population with the same needs. And if you look at any other jurisdiction, and when you looked at the the history of Baltimore County, when you have people who had the same needs, but two different departments, they had to go to two different locations to receive benefits from different programs. What does that look like? That looks like a person who comes into social services and needs food stamps. That person applies for the food stamps and they can get the food stamps. Well, if that family has a child under the age of 5 and they need WIC, they now have to go to our Department of Health program. So you have to leave that location to go to the Department of Health to get that service. So what we've established in Baltimore County is a no wrong door policy. And what that means is that we really try to keep these programs as close together as we possibly can, so that if you walk into Drumcastle and you're looking for social services, in the same exact place, the next line over, you can, or go upstairs onto the 3rd floor, you can also get the WIC program. So that's what we call the no wrong door, so that we're able to help them with, it can be housing, it can be social services, it can be health. So from a client's perspective, they actually like the fact that they can actually get multiple services from one location. From the agency side, what was very, very important is that we looked at this from an innovation, consolidation, and efficiency perspective. And even though the Department of Social Services and Department of Health are separate agencies, they share a common pieces. And what they share are operations, finance, HR, communication, and emergency preparedness. By combining those operational pieces of those two departments, we were able to save millions of dollars on both the county and state side. So it actually worked out operationally to be able to save money, yet we can provide the services that we're providing. I've actually spoken to Anne Marie regarding some of the concerns that you have on social services. I will be the first to admit on the state side, there are significant issues there. And we've already set up an appointment to meet with you this month so we can talk about what those specific issues are. Those are not county issues. Those are state issues, and we can discuss those specific things.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
may be
Ms. Rogers,
acknowledged.
You good? Yeah, absolutely.
Councilmember Ertel, Montgomery County is a Health and Human Services organization. It too combined, when did I last work there? It's been, I think about 15 or more years. So their operation is a combined operation as well. It actually pulled in together health, human services, mental health services, and aging.
Well, it may be, but they have a separate health officer and a
Yes, they have a health
DFS director.
officer within the organization, and then they have an executive director of the Department of Health and Human Services, correct? But they're one organization, and they totally annex from the state. They receive a block grant from the state to operate.
Okay. Councilman Patoka?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a follow-up question to Councilman Ertel. Organizationally, Dr. Branch, do you have a deputy that is focused on the health side and a deputy that's focused on the social services side?
And a deputy that focuses on the operations and administration.
Okay, thank you. This was, I know I talked to your senior staff, but I didn't know organizationally how it's set up. Thank you.
Any additional questions, comments? I'm going to take the opportunity to just thank you, Dr. Branch, for your leadership and your stewardship of all of our COVID operations. I'm always reminded of all, and I was happy to hear you talk about animal services, and I'm always reminded of all the other things that you and your team has been doing for Baltimore County for many, many years. And when we were besieged by COVID, you and your team did not miss a beat. And I can tell you, I received so many accolades. And I will give this to you, your leadership, as well as our county executive, as well as Ms. Rogers. You just don't know how many people said to me during my visits to some of the testing and vaccination clinics, people would walk in with books. They would walk in with newspapers. They would walk in with needlepoint, and they would all turn around and walk out and said, duh, thought I would be here all day. I was here for 15, 20 minutes, whatever time it took to wait for the period of time where we make sure there wasn't an adverse reaction. That was the wait. Then people were able to leave, and you wowed all of them. And I can tell you, like I said, that I would give credit to Ms. Rogers and the county executive because it was all hands on deck here in Baltimore County. You go to that site, we had the police, we had cadets, we had the fire department, we had the health department, we had other employees throughout the county government who volunteered to come and help for additional hours. And it was just a all hands on deck. And I think we without a doubt set the mark for the rest of the country to follow. And when I look in the paper and I see all the problems that other people had, we did not have those problems here in Baltimore County. All we had in Baltimore County was excellence. And thanks to you, sir, and your supporting cast, we appreciate it, and we're very lucky to have you. And I thank you very much. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Branch, I think that with the exception of the auditor's staff and the council staff, you and I would be the only two people here who would be in this room in 2010, where we've survived. And you have been a true professional. You've done a wonderful job. I do want to also thank Della Leister for all of her work she did. You two are great partners.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Dr. Branch, will you talk about the Timonium Center and how it's been recognized for COVID?
So we had at the Timonium Fairgrounds, we did our testing and we also did our immunizations. We were very, very successful in our immunizations. One of the reasons why is because we had enterprise-wide staff. And I will say this to you because many of the other health offices around the country did not have this. We had enterprise-wide staff, including the school system, working with us to be able to man this. And the team was able to do it such that we were ready, that we could probably do approximately 800 to 1,000 vaccines per hour. The only reason why we didn't get that much is because we never got enough vaccine to do it. But the governor himself came to see our operations at the Timonium Fairgrounds and clearly said that we were probably the best in the country in doing this. And he had gone around to see a lot of these things. So clearly, the state actually had folks that they paid to come in to do their sites. And when Ernst & Young's had to come in, the first place they came was to Baltimore County to see how we did it there. So we were the gold standard and the model for being able to do that. The blessing in all of this was that when Councilman Marks talks about 2010, it was back then that you guys may remember H1N1. And when H1N1 came out, it was at that time that Della and I and the team really understood and knew that we had to prepare for a possibility of a pandemic. And since that time, I can just say to you, we were preparing. And I thank all of you for actually being a part of that preparation because you didn't even know. But when we were doing all of the employee vaccines, we were doing it in a mass way to practice for the possibility of having a pandemic. And so we did our super Saturdays and our super weeks in doing the immunization for all the residents of the county. And also when we were doing it with the employees every year, we're drilling our staff to be able to do that. And all of that prepared us for the COVID pandemic, and we were ready for it. And we continue to be ready for whatever the emerging infectious disease is coming up in the future. As you know, I keep saying this, currently we are still battling crime, and I call that CRIME. That's COVID, RSV, influenza, monkeypox, and Ebola. And we've got so much other things that are going on at this point now. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, but I can say to you, the Department of Health and Human Services in Baltimore County, we are ready for it.
And I thank you so much for your leadership. And I just absolutely feel very confident should any of those things hit us, which hopefully they won't. We're ready. And I certainly thank you for what you've done. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you again, Dr. Branch. And Dr. Branch, I have to admit, through it all, we were just so excited to see you give those big boisterous speeches during those COVID WebEx meetings. We were all so excited to see you stand up there in your library with all the books around you and speak in such a manner, make me think, you know, Shakespeare, Macbeth. They had nothing on you. That's right.
I asked
And-
Dr. Branch if they were real or just photos of books, and he assured me they were real. And he had read almost all of them, almost all or all. Can't remember what he said. He didn't answer.
He didn't answer. I think that means almost all. Okay, that's, boy, where are we now? Okay. Next, we'll move on to Miss Chief Joanne Rung from the Fire Department.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Council Chair, members. Happy New Year, and it's such a delight to be here. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to you briefly about my vision and about the fire department and our accomplishments thus far. In 2019, I was brought on the team from County Executive Olszewski and yourselves as an agent of change. Our mission has been to evaluate what we do, how well we do it, and where we can improve and lay out a path to reach those goals. What we do well is operations. As a combined system, we work very well together on emergency scenes, and our career and our volunteer members are extremely dedicated, and we are so very proud of them. During my time as chief, I will lead this department towards a stronger stance within national standards and best practices. And let me give you a few examples. We need to build stronger accountability and consistency within our combined service with improved communications, consistency in disciplinary procedures, and regular joint exercise and training to strengthen us. To align this career and volunteer system to side that organization will be an envision to bring the consistency in practice. We need to strengthen our focus on health and safety for our members. As we all know, mental health has been a strong strain on us. Health and safety for our members has been a long passion of mine, and I serve as well locally as on the national level to work towards that. And as our Facets third-party review just unveiled, there is a lot more to be done in this area. We need to make progress in issues in equity of and inclusion, and I share the administration's view that the public safety agencies should reflect the demographics of which they serve and should be populated within the members of the different perspectives. And we should strive to retain and recruit diverse members, both career and volunteer. With that third-party analysis complete, we are ready to work on a strategic plan to build a strong future for the department. Some points of pride. COVID was absolutely a point of pride for us. We worked very diligently and collectively with all of the departments within the agency and the county. We have strengthened our partners with our volunteer agencies. We've begun to create a process to assist them where they have needs. Several months ago, we hired our very first diversity and inclusion officer, and she has done phenomenal since she has been here. We recently hired an internal affairs coordinator to work on making sure that all of our processes are adhered to the highest standards. And I'm extremely proud on how this department worked with limited resources through our pandemic. I can't say enough about the work ethics of our personnel, especially our officers who have been carrying an extraordinary workload. I appreciate this opportunity to speak with you about my experiences and our accomplishments within the past few years, and I look forward to a reappointment and a favorable vote. And I can bring, hopefully, more positive change to this fire service within Baltimore County. And I look forward to serving one of the largest combination systems in the United States, and also positioning the department for a strong future. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Chief. Any questions, comments from the members? Full disclosure, I have known the chief for quite some time.
Yes, sir.
She and I know her from my past occupation. I guess I'll be one of those for life. But you have always been a constant professional, and you have done a fantastic job here, and as well as where you came from.
Thank you, sir.
And I would just ask, well, I won't ask the question, I know the answer. If, you know, the ranks of the volunteers, fire department, their chiefs were here, they would reappoint you, as well as the members of the career department would also reappoint you. I'm in close contact with a lot of people in the fire department, and I must say that I have yet to find someone with a bad comment about you.
Thank
So
you, sir.
everybody's very happy with what you're doing and satisfied with the work you're doing. And I really appreciate it because the fire department, you know, runs through my blood. So
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Thank
Any
you, sir.
additional questions, comments? Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, small circle. All right, next we'll move on to Pete Gutwall. Brother Pete.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council. I'm Pete Gutwood. I'm the director, looking forward to being the director of permits, approvals, and inspections. I have over 34 years of experience in the development management, planning, and zoning and permitting processes, and have done many different parts of it. As you know, everybody has experienced trials and tribulations over the pandemic. One of the things that we've done in the Department of Permits and Approvals and Inspections when I took over about 2 years ago, trying to modernize and bring on the online digitizing process so we can be prepared for the next issue or pandemic that we may experience in the future. And it doesn't stop with that. The vision for the department is to continue to modernize our business processes and protocols, go into the digital environment for development management. We have a program to continue our modernization or our digitizing the department's paper formats for development management, hopefully moving to miscellaneous permits and code enforcement, moving that forward. Also looking at modernizing and looking at our protocols and businesses processes to be more proficient in terms of our policy manuals, looking at those issues that are outdated and not doing current practices and processes. So we'll be looking towards that into the future for the Department of Permits, Approvals, and Inspections. And finally, I would just mention that over the past years, you know, we've done, I've tried to instill a process in which people do not feel frustrated or have anxiety coming in trying to get a permit or dealing with constituent issues. As you know, we added additional code enforcement officers to address the communities and being more involved with the community, the direct communities throughout the county. And so there's individual leads for code enforcement to deal with all the issues that your constituents may be dealing with. Education and outreach, we continue to work on that, but also sort of the philosophy of running the department so that people have a positive experience when they come into the department, whether it's trying to apply for a permit or a development plan or dealing with an issue of trying to get some information and making it more transparent and open and accessible as we go through the process of modernizing the department. I've had years of experience dealing with that and look forward to your favorable appointment and continuing that efforts for Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. Gutwall. Are there any questions or comments?
Thank you,
Councilor
Mr. Chair.
Pope?
Brother Pete, I wanted to thank you for, is that what you're going by now, Brother Pete?
Sure, sounds like it.
Sounds like you've entered the clergy. I just wanted to thank you. I know my team sends a tremendous amount of constituent requests over to your shop, and you and your team are always very responsive, and just wanted to publicly thank you for being so responsive to the many requests we send your way.
Thank you. And let me just also add, Mr. Gutwall, you without a doubt have been doing a fantastic job. I too have sent you all sorts of issues and concerns, and you have yet to say, take a hike. You always work through the issues. You always get to where we need to be in terms of what's in the best interest of the citizens. And I have to admit, I guess the last issue, you said some things to me and it turned out to be right. And I was thinking, really? But you obviously know your stuff. You have a lot of experience, and you work hard, you and the people in your department, for the citizens. And I really, really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So I thank you.
Thanks.
All right. He's my brother, is he? Thank you, Brother Pete. Next, Director Steve Lafferty. I know it's around that time, Director Lafferty, that normally your internal clock would be saying it's time to head down to Annapolis. But you stuck with us. Yours too?
I would think Councilman Catch also had that clock.
He gets
many more
he
years
gets
than
told
I
me.
did, Mr. Chairman. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. It's an honor to be here and honored to have been appointed by County Executive Oshevsky, first as the officer, County Sustainability Officer, and then over the past 2 years to serve as the Director of Planning. It's been a privilege to know and work with all of you as well. And in each instance, I'm very fortunate to have had the opportunity to do so prior to my appointment and joining the administration. And I think I've been able to demonstrate during my career that, like you, I'm a public servant. The purpose that I seek to achieve is to make sure that the community and the public is receiving the best services possible. That was true when I served as Deputy Director of Planning in Howard County, as well as serving the county executive and as a special projects person to implement projects such as the Main Street program in Ellicott City. It was true as a legislator for 13 years, where I think I've came to fully appreciate the role of the legislative body, but also the way it has to interface with the executive branch in order to make sure that your wishes as legislators are carried through. And in the executive branch, we are there to really, where the rubber meets the road, to make sure that the will and the intentions of the legislature are fulfilled. And prior to that, I served and worked with many communities throughout the county. So I think have a full appreciation for many of the capacity needs, the challenges they face, but also feel deeply that our obligation in the planning department is to make sure that the citizens' voices are heard, that the residents have a seat at the table, that they participate in those issues that will affect their future. So my vision really is similar to when I was first appointed, and that's that the department be a positive force and factor in making sure that the communities in the county are improved and that the quality of life is enhanced for everybody. That we will work with the communities to create plans and to meet their needs and actually get implemented and not just sit on a shelf somewhere where it has very little meaning. And at the same time, focus on equity and sustainability to ensure that what we undertake is handled in an equitable way, but also will be here well beyond our term of service. And I'm very proud that in the 2 years I've been there, we've been able to build up the capacity of our own planning staff. They're spending more and more time in the communities, working with the neighborhoods and the business organizations and nonprofits to address the concerns that they face. We have sent a draft of Master Plan 2030 to the county executive for his review. That was in a little over 2 years' time, which is much shorter than it's been in previous times. We have initiated a community planning institute, which we hope to launch this spring, which will help better educate, inform, and also make partners people in the communities again, because when developments occur and changes occur, it is about them. We undertook a massive effort at Security Square Mall, which is really in its infancy stages. And I thank each of you, and particularly Council Chair, for the support to make sure that, in fact, we could conduct a charrette that was a very meaningful event for the community, but also now set the stage for the investments that we'll be making in that Woodlawn area. We've begun to modernize, update, and professionalize a comprehensive manual of development policies. Again, bringing things into a more modern time where they're more valuable and useful not only to the citizenry, but those people who rely upon the documents that we have. And at the same time, investing more energy and time in trying to upgrade our own internal capacity so that we can serve the other agencies, provide whether it's mapping services and other research and support, so that we're a valuable tool for our colleagues throughout the executive branch. And I thank you for the opportunity to be here today. It's, as I said, it's an honor to serve. Look forward to working with you going forward when I'm reappointed.
Thank you very, very much. Any questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Lafferty, I just want to say thank you for the work you do. And as always, tell the planners they're all doing a great job.
Certainly will, Councilman. Thank you.
Any additional question or comment? Director Lafferty, again, I would echo what Councilman Patoka said. You do a fantastic job. We certainly appreciate your diving in and really making things happen here in Baltimore County. You're always there whenever I show up for meetings and whatnot. You're there, and it's not just your staff. So kudos to you as well as your staff, and we thank you very much for the work you're doing for the citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Next, we'll move on to Ms. Rhoda Benjamin.
Good evening,
Good
Council
evening,
Chair.
Ms.
Good evening, Council members. I just want to thank you for your time, and thanks to the administration for reappointing me. I'm looking forward to implementing new HR initiatives to include classification and compensation study. As you guys know, we have been in the process of implementing a Workday. We have implemented the HR side of things. We are looking forward to implementing the payroll side of things. We are looking forward to implementing a testing. We have recently selected a testing vendor for public safety. Also, just to a quick background about myself, I have over 19 years HR experience with 13 years in senior leadership. I have experience in recruiting, compensation, employee relations, payroll, benefits, and I look forward to implementing new strategies, best practices in the HR world, and I look forward to your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Ms. Benjamin, we certainly appreciate the work you do for the citizens here in Baltimore County. You've been extremely busy, getting a lot of things done. We get the tail end of it, but we know how busy you are and the things you are doing for us, and we really, really appreciate it. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Sure. Especially in these trying times when it seems like all the workers went home somewhere. A lot of vacancies. Okay, and let's see. Mr. David Likens.
Good evening, Chairman Jones and members of the County Council. Thank you for having me today. I graduated from Towson University in 1986. Actually, it was Towson State University back then. And Baltimore County formed the Department of Environmental Protection and Resource Management, as it was then called, in 1987. And so I came to work here in the fall of 1987, and I've been here ever since. So that's 36 years. And so I have a unique perspective as the director because I know the people, and I know the jobs, and I know the history, I know the regulations. So I think that helps me in being able to help manage the current Department of Environmental Protection and Sustainability. I think we have the best, most professional staff in the county. I'm sure every director feels that way. But I think the people in our office, it's not a job to them. They don't do it for the money. They really think they are saving the world. And so we have great people that work for us. We do lots of, obviously, MS4 program stuff, stream restorations and shoreline jobs. Obviously, we have planted in the last 4 years tens of thousands of trees of all sizes and shapes in all of your districts. But we have, as Madam AO always says, it's always better to spend other people's money. We spend $25 to $30 million on the MS4 program, but we do lots of other stuff trying to use other people's money. So one of the things the county executive asked us to do was create something called Operation Retree, where we did an analysis of street tree coverage, aerial coverage, canopy coverage in communities with low incomes. And we compared the lowest canopy coverage to the lowest incomes. And we took the 32 lowest scores in census block areas. And we've spent last year, this year, and we'll spend next year planting about $500,000 every spring and every fall in those communities to try to help people who can't help themselves, who can't do much about it themselves, but we're going to go plant trees in their communities. These are street trees. We have another program where last year we implemented where we collected derelict crab traps. I'm sorry, let me go back to the Operation Retree. We're not even spending the county's money. We got a $1.5 million grant from Chesapeake Bay Trust. We also got a $1.5 million in money from American Rescue Plan. So that whole program, we're not spending county money on. Derelict crab trap program, we use Chesapeake Bay critical area fee and lieu money to go out into the bay and we hired off-season watermen, so not during their season, but in their off-season, to go out, and we did side scanning sonar. We partnered with the Oyster Recovery Project to find these derelict crab traps that people don't use anymore. They're in the bottom. They're just little death traps with crabs and fish going in and dying. And we collected 1,500 of them last year. So it was like a win-win. We were using, again, developers' fee and lieu money to pay off-season watermen to improve the bay. I'll give you my final example. We partnered with the Maryland Department of Agriculture to spray for midges in Back River. I'm sorry, Councilman Crandall isn't here to hear this, but we used a naturally occurring bacteria that we sprayed from a helicopter into 1,200 acres of Back River. We got the state to pay for half of it, and we killed literally billions of midges. And so we've improved the quality of life for all the business owners and all the citizens in and around Back River. So hopefully I can be here for 4 more years and continue to do good work and serve the citizens of Baltimore County.
Thank you, Director. Any questions, comments from the
Yeah,
members?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Leggins, I want to thank you for the job that you've been doing. Just a quick question about trees, about the percent of the trees that survive. Are we still, when trees die after a certain number of years, they're replaced? And then does maintenance, I'm not talking about any county trees, I'm talking about on private property where, develop, what I'm talking about. Is there anything beyond the replacement of the trees? I mean, should they die? The second tree die?
Well, 2 things. One is the county executive gave us 6 extra positions in last year's budget. 3 of those we used to create a maintenance division. to go out and take care of the county trees that we plant. So all the trees that we plant, we follow up to make sure that they're okay. The CEQ provided a report this year to the council, a resolution to the council, and they took some testimony from citizens and from my staff, and it was really anecdotal information. So what we decided to do was to get real data. County executive loves real data. So we hired a consultant to study the last 10 years worth of private plantings in the Forest Conservation Act.
Good.
To go out and study each and every one, everything that was planted in the last 10 years to see what the survivability was and to see what conditions were there and how we could improve doing that. So hopefully sometime this summer we'll have the results of that study and be better able to decide where we should go from here.
Are they looking at the vines that are out of control in some of these?
They're looking at every condition and every planting that was done under the Forest Conservation Act in the last 10 years.
Good. Sounds like we're making progress. Appreciate it.
Councilman Patoka.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Likens. I look forward to that report. Councilman Marks and I did a little forest tour and plantings tour with some of the advocates and which led to the resolution, and so we look forward to that. And just also want to compliment you on your resume and how you lead with education. And I think that's strong. Councilman Ertel, I don't know if you know this, but he leads with Towson University, and us Towson graduates, we view Towson University as the Harvard of the Mid-Atlantic. And so I would lead with that too. So good job,
Thank you.
Mr. Likens.
Full disclosure, my daughter works in HR and helped me with my resume. So
Well,
Mr. Chair.
Director Likens, I certainly appreciate the work you do for Baltimore County. I have been along beside you, behind you, as we cleaned up streams, as we planted trees, you name it. Whenever it comes to getting dirty, you're around dragging me into it. So I certainly appreciate all the work you do. And whenever anybody has any issues or concerns, we call you, you take care of it. So I thank you so much.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Likens, for your ongoing work with me on waterfront issues, since I now represent the waterfront. And I'm going to have to apologize to Mr. Hickey, Mr. Benjamin. I may have to leave early, but I appreciate all that you've done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Terry Hickey, Director of Housing and Community Development. In an effort to save time, I'm going to say you've been doing a fantastic job as well. And you're very responsive to our concerns, at least my concerns, and you're a good thinker. And I think the county is in great hands at your stewardship in terms of trying to increase housing and providing housing for folks in Baltimore County. Oh, did that while he was walking.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I should probably say rest my case and leave it there, but I will say a couple of I will say a couple of quick words. And before I do say that, and good evening and Happy New Year, Mr. Chair and members of the council. I realized as folks were walking up, this is about our individual directorships of these agencies, but this is really a great team. I'm thinking about the way we're all working together. So it's a great team made up of individuals.
You're stealing my thunder. Adam, what does that say at the bottom of my paper? Thank you.
I might have peeked at your notes, Mr. Chair. I apologize. So believe it or not, 4 days ago.
Copy off my paper.
I'm being efficient. 4 days ago marked my 3rd year anniversary with the county. And I was thinking back when I started, I had no idea that a few weeks later, a global pandemic was going to be upon us. And looking back, it had a tremendous impact on the work, but also showing us what housing really meant to Baltimore County in addition to other basic human needs. It's been a challenging but productive few years, to say the least. I want to give a few highlights. First, the creation of our agency. A DHCD didn't exist, and it was a big team effort. And when we did the press conference to announce the agency with the county executive, we said 4 simple things. We're going to fight to keep people in their homes. We're going to work to address and prevent homelessness wherever possible. We're going to increase access to high quality, attainable housing for all residents, including our most vulnerable. And we're going to invest in communities and help build the capacity of our nonprofit partners who've been out there on the front line doing the work with us and for us. And I think the pandemic underscored all of that. I do want to thank the county executive and Madam AO for putting me in this position and allowing me to be the first director of this agency, and for the council who had faith in me to take the lead from the very beginning. I want to thank my experienced and amazingly dedicated leadership team and all of the staff, both inherited and recently hired, that are out there working on the front lines to do this work every day. Collectively, DHCD's created a state-of-the-art constituent service platform to solve problems. I think we specialize in getting the complex issues that you push to us from constituents every day that we get directly. In the middle of all of this, we launched the largest eviction prevention program in county history, one that's become a state model, one that's allowed us to move over $115 million to keep thousands of people in their home. We have a lot of work left to do. We're already working hard on the next complex issues. One of the biggest is, how do we ensure housing stability as the federal COVID funds begin to wind down? You're getting those calls. We're working between agencies, and DHCD will continue to be a leader in thinking how to do this, how to help people be and become sustainable and keep their housing well. And you heard the county executive speak in his inaugural about the importance of housing. We will also continue to address the growing need for housing for everyone in Baltimore County. And I've met with all of you many times in the last few months, and I say this with absolute honor and sincerity, that I look forward to doing some historic work with all of you for the residents of Baltimore County. So I thank you in advance for your consideration of my reappointment. We've got a lot of work to do, so thank you.
Any questions, comments from the members? Hearing none, moving right along. Thank you, Director Hickey. Next, we'll move on to our county attorney, Mr. James Benjamin, Esquire.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, honorable members of the council. My name is James Benjamin. I continue to be a proud county resident. When I was here 3 years ago, I told you, Councilman Catch, that I currently live in District 3. I still do so with my wife and now 5-year-old daughter. The last time I was before you all in this in this manner, she was 2. I just turned 2, so time is flying very fast. I graduated from the University of Maryland School of Law, King Carey School of Law in 2001, and I've been practicing law for over 20 years now. I'm deeply honored to have been presented for consideration to continue serving as a county attorney. It's an honor to represent the county as county attorney, and I'm very proud of the work my office has done since I was appointed and confirmed in November of 2019. I wanted to share a few accomplishments of the Office of Law. We've increased the number of attorneys to handle transactional and litigation matters. There's an emphasis on coordination and collaboration. We say teamwork makes the dream work, and we strive for this daily. We've been able to efficiently and effectively integrate the office so units within the office are working together, and that is a better product and service for our client. We're building a diverse office and creating a culture that empowers our people to be accountable, to take initiative, and to make sound decisions that best guide our client. We've consolidated all county legal services under the umbrella of the Office of Law, and we've started an affirmative litigation unit, which is something I'm particularly proud of. Some of the goals for the future for our office: 1, hiring PIA compliance officer and PIA advice attorney. I know that the importance and priority of a transparent, efficient PIA process was something referenced by the county executive during last year's budget process. The PIA compliance officer would provide frequent trainings to all department and office custodians, which would further the administration's goals as to PIA compliance and transparency, and our office is actively interviewing for these roles. We're going to continue to grow the number of attorneys in the office from a staffing perspective, with the idea of hiring attorneys with experience in all aspects of municipal law to reduce the need to hire outside counsel. I know that's been a concern of the members. It's important to bring on civil litigation experience to better help departments and offices with potential legal risk management issues, to assist with reducing potential legal exposure for the county. We continue to grow. We will continue to grow our firm litigation unit and look to streamline our business process for departments and offices seeking and receiving legal advice from the Office of Law to be as efficient as possible. I'm very excited about the opportunity to continue in this role, working with my colleagues who comprise the Office of Law, advising the administration, this council, the departments and offices of the county, and I look forward to continue growing the office. I will continue to strive for transparency, accountability, efficiency, and excellence in what I do. I'll continue to try and represent clients with the highest level of integrity and professionalism. You may recall when I was here before you all back in November 2019, I said that my job is to ensure my clients feel included and informed so they know what's going on and to make sure I'm available for my clients. I have endeavored to do that in my first 3 years, and if reappointed, will promise to continue to do so. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Benjamin? Yes.
Mr.
Councilman
Benjamin,
Ketch?
I want to thank you for your openness and transparency and the fact that you have kept this council informed of various issues, either that'll come before us or that county
Thank you, sir.
has settled. And I really appreciated it. I think you're doing a great job.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Any additional questions? I will echo what my distinguished colleague, Councilman Catch, said, which is you do a fantastic job keeping us informed. We've been around, at least I've been around for a while, and I can tell you there's never a time today that something's going on in terms of litigation with Baltimore County that you do not keep us informed. We certainly appreciate it. And believe me when I tell you, even though sometimes we're like, come on, man, do we really need to? You persist, and we listen, and we're better for it. And I thank you. You've been doing a great job as answering all my questions. You led us through some very difficult times in terms of litigation being held against the county, but I think you've been managing it very well as building a team so that we can cut down on the outside counsel that we currently pay from time to time. But we certainly understand it when you come to us and explain to us why we need that expertise. So I thank you very, very much.
Thank you, sir.
For the job you're doing.
Thank you very much.
And on that note, I know that Mr. Hickey tried to steal my thunder, but I just wanted to congratulate everybody who came before us this evening, and as well as the county executive for assembling a great team. And I think, everybody's doing a fantastic job for the citizens of Baltimore County. And I give the credit to each and every one of you, as well as the county executive for put you in, like put me in, coach, like put you in the game. So thank you very much. That's it. It's been a long day.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Sure. Good night.